Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lane and today I'm going to be talking about my 2022 favorites, finally. This is the second time I'm filming this. I filmed it, didn't like it as I was editing it, and then I got sick. So this is a week later. So yeah. And I had 16 books picked out to talk about, and I have a top 6. The rest are just kind of random. I liked them, and it's not all of my favorites. I didn't want this video to be too long. So first up, I'm going to talk about Pew. Pew by Catherine Lacey made it onto my list, which I was kind of surprised about. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I really enjoyed the story. It's a quick little read about a character named Pew that ends up in a small southern town in the United States, and they don't really have any discernible gender, race, sort of those identifying factors that we humans use to categorize other humans. So it just kind of sends the town into a spiral. Pew's not talking either, not really giving anything up, so it kind of scares the town. But I think Catherine Lacey approached this topic of like human complexity as well as categorization tools very well. I thought it was so interesting and scary and frustrating, some of the things that I read, and just all too true. So I really liked it. I like what Catherine Lacey did. I'll definitely be picking up more of what she does. She has a book coming out this year, and she has some backlist stuff. So I'll definitely be reading more of her books. I have 2 nonfiction that I want to talk about. First up is Dead Blondes and Bad Mothers by Sady Doyle. I hope I said her last name right. And she just explores the topics of like patriarchy as well as the fear of female power, which that part of her exploration I really enjoyed. She went into sort of all different types of topics, exploring these sub-genres or whatever, I guess, subtopics of femininity and stuff like that. So I really liked where she took it. I liked how she broke down everything. Like I think she broke it down as daughters, something in between, and mothers, I think. And she used film, religion, anything you could think of to talk about these serious subjects. She used true crime as well. I really just recommend that book as a nonfiction book. And then the other nonfiction that I have is The Language of Fanaticism by Amanda Montell, also known as Cultish. I really enjoyed this book as well. I think Amanda Montell's research was really well done. I liked that she had people to interview as well. So obviously this book is exploring cults and the language they use to gain followers and gain trust from people. It also talks about other things that you might not necessarily think as a cult, which I'll kind of leave to surprise you, but I really enjoyed it as a nonfiction book, and I'll definitely be picking up her other book. Okay, next up is kind of almost in the nonfiction, but it's a fiction story. It's Jiyoung, born 1982. by Nam-Joo. I don't know if I said her name right, but I say it's kind of nonfiction, but it is fiction, I think, technically, because she includes actual cited facts from research in South Korea. And so I thought that was really interesting, and I feel like it shows a lot as to the deep-rooted misogyny in the South Korean culture and how women are raised, brought up, and how they're thought of once they, you know, sort of reach their adult life and maybe explore motherhood, get married, anything like that. But it's kind of surrounding a fictional story, which probably isn't fictional in a sense that this has probably really happened to women in South Korea. But I thought it was really good. I would say the first chapter didn't have me totally hooked, but afterwards I flew through it, and it's quite a short little book. So definitely recommend that one. Next up, I have Fangs by Sarah Andersen, and this is a graphic novel about a vampire and a werewolf that fall in love. And I think it's just super cute the way Sarah Andersen did this story and sort of the details in their relationship as one's a vampire, one's a werewolf, and what that could bring in their relationship and sort of the nuances of it. So I thought it was cute. 100-page graphic novel. I flew through it and would definitely reread it in a heartbeat. I planned to again this year, but I realized I read it this year, or 2022. And then I was like, okay, I'll wait a year. So maybe in October of this year, I'll read it again. Next up is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I was so intrigued by this book, and I had wanted it for a long time, but I was hesitant about getting hardcover because I'm definitely a paperback person. But I decided to just bite the bullet and get a hardcover, and I am so excited I did. I read it for October, and everyone was saying it's super spooky, super creepy. And I wouldn't say I was like completely scared like I thought I would be, but it was definitely creepy and eerie, and it was sad. And Julia Armfield her writing is so amazing. I think I saw someone say they wanted to like blend it up and bathe in it. Oh, it was Jack Edwards, he said that. I totally agree. It's dual POV of this lesbian couple. One is a marine biologist, and she went out on a mission in a submarine, I think with 2 other people, and they sort of got lost or sunk, I don't know what to say, for longer than the mission was planned to be. And so it's her POV under the sea, and then it is her wife's POV when she's back. And the grief and the love and the scariness of like grieving someone who's still there but is gone and not who you know anymore. It's so palpable. It hurts my heart to think about now, but Julia Armfield did so well, and I definitely can't wait to pick up. I think she has 1 other book, maybe 2, but I'll definitely be picking up more by her. Next up, I'm gonna kind of talk about quickly because they're by the same author, and that is Elektra and Ariadne by Jennifer Saint. So Elektra, I read recently, literally like in December on a trip, and I really enjoyed it. I was sort of hesitant at first, but Jennifer Saint's writing, especially for mythology retellings, which obviously is all I've read by her right now, that's all she's put out. It's super accessible. Like, I was definitely scared to read Greek mythology retellings. I read at least 4 this year, but Jennifer Saint makes them so easy to read, and I love that her stories center around the women in Greek tragedies or stories or whatever, because they're so often left out and not even thought about. Elektra, though it follows Elektra, actually follows 2 other women in the Trojan War. Yes, so Elektra, Clytemnestra, I'm not sure if I said her mom's name right, I'm pretty sure I didn't, and then Cassandra, I think, the Princess of Troy. So good. I guess I shouldn't give too much away. So I highly recommend Elektra and Ariadne. I would say I like Ariadne a little bit better. I think it really focused on what I would want in a story that centers the women, in that it's sort of showing the disgustingness of the men that those stories so often center, and what they'll do to gain the power or notoriety. So I really prefer Ariadne over Elektra, but both so good. Sorry if you heard my computer turn on. So I highly recommend them both. And she has a new book coming out this year that I'm so excited for, that I'll talk about in my anticipated release. But Elektra kind of pissed me off a little bit, so it was still good. I still loved Jennifer Saint's writing, and I loved the retelling, but Elektra pissed me off. So, yeah. Now we're into my top 6. So these ones are going to be ranked, and I will have a number 1 that I'm so excited to talk about. Anyways, number 6 is Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head by Warsan Shire. I hope I said her name right. This is a poetry collection. I have 2 poetry collections on this list that made my top 6. But Bless the Daughter Raised by a Voice in Her Head. The stories, or the poetry, really got to me. There were a few poems that related to non-fiction stories, real, true stories of women who were killed, or one's an adult woman, one was a child, and it was just so sad. And again, you know, with poetry, some spoke to me more, or I understood them better than others, because poetry is definitely easy for me to sort of get lost. But overall, the collection was so well done, and I'll definitely be picking up more by Warsan Shire. So yeah, that was number 6. Number 5 is Almond. That book was so fucking clever. I wish I had it with me right now to read the prologue. Maybe I'll insert a clip of the other one. So good. Like, started off amazing. Went through amazing. It is about a kid who has an underdeveloped amygdala that causes him to, I think, not be able to register other people's emotions, as well as not be able to portray any. Like, he's just sort of emotionless and can't read other people's cues related to emotion. And then tragedy strikes with him, and so he kind of loses everything. And then he meets someone who kind of turns everything around a little bit. He meets a friend at school, I should say. But it was so well done, and I really loved the relation, or sort of the research that the author did in that amygdala, or something in Latin from amygdala means almond, and that's because the amygdala is almond shaped. So I just thought it was super clever. Also, read the author's note after, because I thought it was interesting why she chose to write this book. So definitely read that after. Coming in at number 4 is Circe by Madeline Miller. Another Greek mythology retelling. I love Madeline Miller's writing. It is so poetic, so amazing. I will say her mythology retellings are a little bit harder to grasp sometimes. I would say with Circe and the Song of Achilles, there's a lot of name drops at some points in the book that I got a little bit lost. With Circe, I would say it was easier to grab a hold of it. Obviously the name dropping, when I say name drop, like, it's important to the story, so I understand it. It's not just name dropping to name drop. So it's important to their stories, but I definitely could get a little bit lost in them. But I loved Circe as a character, and I just was like rooting for her the entire time. I really felt for her and, you know, wanted the best for her. So I think, you know, Madeline Miller's writing, like, how could I not put that on a top 6 with how I felt about Circe. Next up, number 3 is The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Now, I put this at number 3 because this book, The Song of Achilles, literally made me cry. And I think that is the only book that has made me cry. There might be one other one. But literally sobbing, like looked over at my husband and was like, a book has never made me cry this much. Literally in like the last 10 pages of the book. So, it's kind of why I put it over Circe, but to be honest, I love Circe so much, but I really love Patroclus in particular. I liked Achilles, but he was a little bit frustrating at times. Again, Madeline Miller's writing, amazing. I loved the way she explored Achilles and Patroclus's story, and I got the 10th anniversary edition and she kind of talks about why she wrote this, and I thought that was interesting, and that she always thought that they were more than what is portrayed in the stories. I won't say too much more, but I thought she did it so well, and it was just so heartbreaking. So yeah, definitely made the top 6 list, coming in at number 3. So next up, number 2 is Devotions by Mary Oliver. Now this is a collection of poems by Mary Oliver's work, like multiple pieces of work, like divided from, I think it starts at her most recent poetry collection, Felicity, I think, and then ends at her oldest collection. And it's just got a few from each, I think, that are probably the most popular. But I love Mary Oliver's writing and the way she just wants to connect to nature and how she feels about it and the physical world, and I was just like in awe. I immediately had to buy a couple more of her stories or poetry collections. One is a work of essays as well, and I can't wait to read more of her poetry collections. Okay, I tried to make this quick. Coming in at number 1 is Babel by R.F. Kuang. I am in America, so I say Babel. I think in the UK, everywhere else, they say Babel. I think Babel made the most sense because they called them babblers, like you babble on. I don't know. Anyways, that's beside the point. This book, I was surprised by. I knew it would be good. And I was definitely hearing a lot about it, especially before that stupid ass review came out. I had picked it up before that, but literally, wow. R.F. Kuang is a fucking genius, excuse my language, like absolute genius. I read, okay, little side note here, I got the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition as well as, like, this is the book that I read from, but I got the exclusive edition from Barnes & Noble because I wanted to read the little blurb in the back about sort of the works that she got a lot of her information from, and you know, sort of why she chose to write this. And she said she treats all her pieces of writing as a thesis, and literally, wow, like this book is so clever. There's so many details to it, so many things R.F. Kuang's trying to discuss that she did so well. This book made me cry. Oh, this is the other one that made me cry this year. Not as bad as I'd seen some people in videos, but tears definitely fell down my face. Like, I don't know what to say. I loved the academia atmosphere that she put her whole heart into because she loves it, but she also recognized the flaws of academia and these university institutions. I'm in awe of this book, and this would definitely be something to reread and keep learning, and like I'm getting chills just talking about it. So I could definitely go on and on about this book, but please just read it. There's so many quotes I could read, but I would give too much away, so I won't. Honestly, might go back and watch Books with Chloe's Patreon spoiler-filled vlog, so just so that I could remember this beautiful story. But anyways, that is my top books for 2022. My favorites. You saw my number 1. I hope you got some ideas for what you want to read. Let me know some of your favorites. Definitely add Babel to your list. Like, please, I'm begging you, read this book. If you really think it's not for you, like the fantasy element, dark academia, then okay, fine. But please, this is such an important piece of literature. R.F. Kuang's a fucking genius. Like, I don't know what else I could say. Please just read it. Also read the other books, because they are just as good as Babel. But Babel made number 1. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking now. I hope you have a good day, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.